Okay.
Is it rolling?
Boy, we can hardly see your name. What is it? George
Yeah.
Smith?
It's not George Smith.
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Tristan Bush. As you all know, I am a student in the electronic media class, just like everyone else here, and my presentation today is facts about voice acting. So voice acting, as you know, is a type of acting that involves the use of one's voice. It's primarily used for animation, video games, radio, and movies. And now, as complicated as it seems, and not simple as it is, it's also not a very straightforward industry to get into. There's lots of different paths you can take to get in it. And it also requires many skills. And one path and skill needed to that is networking and knowing people in the industry, which leads me to segue into this man. Now this is a voice actor, a friend of mine named Chuck Hüber. If any of you guys are into anime, you probably know him as quite a few characters done by Funimation. And over the last year, I've gotten to know him and many other voice actors that work for Funimation as well. So about a month ago or so, he was a guest at Nomikai Dallas, and I was able to do a very brief interview with him. It's actually a funny situation. I wanted to do a full one-on-one interview with him, and I emailed him asking him to do it, and I never heard back from him. And so at Nomikai, I told him about that, and he was like, I did write a reply for you. So he looked through his email, and he said it was in his drafts. He forgot to send it. So he was nice enough to just answer the questions right on the spot. So unlike a lot of other guys here who have done interviews with people and had very thorough answers, his answers were not as thorough because of the time needed at the convention. So he was kind of just winging it, basically. So let's move on to the next part here. So the first things I asked him were the best and worst aspects of his career. And the best aspect, hands down, was the fans telling him so, expressing their thoughts on their work and just talking about their work with them. And he even said that's the biggest sign of payoff for their job. And the worst aspect is screaming at the top of their lungs, because that can really wear their voices out. And the most infamous example in Funimation, as far as I know, is the actor on screen here, Sean Schemmel. Do we have any fans of Dragon Ball Z in here? Anybody? Just one? And a couple? And a few? Well, if you guys are fans of Dragon Ball, you know that Sean Schemmel is the voice of Son Goku, the main character. And that character, much like many other characters, are known for constant screaming. And so he has to scream constantly as Goku in the booth. And legend has it, there was even a session where he screamed so loud, he fainted in the booth. And they had to go in there and wake him and get him back up, because he screamed so loud that he lost all that energy. That's how intense their work can be. Now, I also asked him, how did he get into his job? How did he get it? How did he get to audition? How did he get to where he is today? Well, he told me that fellow voice actor Brad Jackson, known for voicing Oolong in Dragon Ball, he told him that he should audition, and he did, and pretty much the rest was history. There is no single path, as I said, to get into voice acting. You can take acting classes, improv classes, have experience in radio, and as I said, knowing people who are actually involved in the industry. Like I said, there's many different paths that you can take, and who knows where it could lead you. They could all lead to the exact same place in the end. Now, when it comes to important job commitments, Chuck said that there really aren't that many. You really just have to only live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which I do, and I'm sure quite a few of you do as well. Living in areas that have voiceover studios or where voiceover is done is very important if you want to be in that industry, because you have to be there so you can be available at any time. If you're not where the work is, what's the point of even pursuing this then, honestly? And honestly, Dallas-Fort Worth is not the only place you can live in for this kind of job. You can also live in New York City, Los Angeles, California, Chicago, Illinois, or even Vancouver and Montreal up in Canada, eh? Now, there aren't really a whole lot of special skills needed, but there is one that is absolutely crucial, and I have it in all caps here: be an actor. You have to know how to act. You have to have acting skills. You should take acting classes, improv classes, or even perform in your local theater. Like those will definitely help you, and you could do like hundreds of different voices, but if you can't act, you ain't gonna have the job. But one other skill that's needed, even though I didn't type it in there, my bad, is having technical knowledge and actually knowing how to work the equipment and the software to get the voices to sound as good as they can be, and also just know how the microphone works, how the software connected to the microphone works, and so forth and so on. How this board right here works. You have to know that, or else you can't get it to sound very good. Those are definitely the skills needed in order for this kind of work. Now, as with any person that has a very special career in their life, they have memorable moments and, honestly, not so memorable moments. Chuck had one that happened very early on in his career, and it's definitely a fascinating story, and I heard him talk about it at panels, so I knew what he was talking about when he said this. So, he was the voice of the character Hiei in the anime Yu Yu Hakusho, and his very first autograph line was for this character. So, he had a desk for his autograph line, and say his desk was over here on the other side of the room. The line started there and could easily go all the way to the other wall, and then go to my left and go all the way around the building and just keep going that way. That's how long that line was. Nice. And so he was just very shocked to see a line that long for a character he played. And the very first person that walked up to him started fanboying and freaking out over him, like, "Oh my God, you're the voice of EA!" And then Chuck started freaking out. It's like, "Oh my God, there's a fan who's going crazy about me. What's going on here?" And so, sorry, he said that was a very, very memorable moment in his career. Now, we have to get a little bit more serious with this presentation, because Lord knows it hasn't been serious enough already. Making a living. Many people's dream of making a living and having lots of money. Now, many people assume that voice actors, especially at Funimation, have massive amounts of money. They have private jets, mansions, butlers, everything you could possibly want. Sadly, this is not the case. Chuck told me that voice actors at Funimation, and I already knew this from watching panels on YouTube and also talking to people directly, they don't make a lot of money at Funimation doing voiceover work. More money can be made doing commercials, original animation, video games, or even other jobs altogether. And also, there's different tiers of payment in regards to acting. Now, I don't pretend to know what those rates are, but commercials, video games, cartoons, especially out in the Union in California, those can easily pay the bills. Easily. Whereas dubbing anime, really doesn't. It's actually the lowest out of all the acting mediums that pay. The lowest pay out of all of them. And what also makes it really sad is dubbing anime is also the hardest, because you have to match the mouth and the lip syncing. You have to make sure it works, like sound conversational for an English-speaking audience. Therefore, it's really hard to do. So that makes it even more sad that it's just not the highest pay. And then another important thing I had to ask him was, where does he see his industry and career going in 10 years? And his answer was very interesting to me. I wasn't really expecting it. He said virtual reality. And that really kind of interested me. It's like, how could that be implemented? Like, I know that virtual reality, as I'm sure a lot of you do now, can be implemented with like first-person video games and also amusement park rides and just various other fun attractions that could be used for it. But I failed to see how anime could be implemented into it. And so, after the interview was over, I messaged him later asking for further elaboration on that. And he basically said, it's like watching anime right now, except it's all around you. He didn't exactly go further beyond that, but I guess in theory you could be watching like a big Dragon Ball fight in virtual reality. It's just all around you, and you have to just like spin all around and see what's going on, and then inevitably you trip and fall and break something, because that's just the nature of virtual reality. Am I right? While it's still early on in the life of VR to know for sure how it could be implemented, I think it could be very interesting to see how it could evolve and how they could work together. And now, finally, I just want to give a special thanks to my friend Chuck Hüber. He's a really great guy if you ever see him at conventions, and I even listed some of his credits he's known for. He's known for Android 17 and Emperor Pilaf and Dragon Ball, Shao Tucker and Yu Yu Hakusho. Shao Tucker and Full Metal Alchemist. Hiei Yu Yu Hakusho, Professor Stein from Soul Eater, Kurogiri from My Hero Academia, The Bus Driver and Rosario Vampire, and also his website is www.chuckhuber.org, and he even has an IMDb page, so go look him up. Now then, do we have any questions? Or do you, oh, yes?
Yeah, do you happen to know Troy Baker, or?
I never met him.
Oh, bummer.
He's out in LA. Any move?
Go back
Yes.
to the last slide.
Here?
Shao Tucker, that was the one with the daughter, right? The
Yes.
We don't speak of that. It's way too soon.
Yeah.
Yes, that guy.
That was a
that
crazy
monster.
10 years ago.
Yes, that monster.
Sorry.
If any of you are fans of Full Metal
If you've
Alchemist,
watched
you know
anime,
exactly
you've
what
never
we're
seen
talking
anime,
about.
I mean, compared to that guy, Professor Stein seems almost normal.
Yeah, he's a little more comparison. But anyway, going beyond that, any
I
other
mean, at least
questions?
Stein knows he's a little crazy.
Yeah.
But it's released.
People, do we have any more questions, or would you like to give your 2 cents, ma'am?
No? Good.
All right, thank you.